Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
What I am about to tell you sounds crazy. But you have to listen to me. Your very lives depend on it. This is not the end. You see, this isn't the first time. Now, we've had this conversation. What day is it?
Judgment Day. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
What is reality? What is reality? What is reality? What is truth? What is illusion? What are lies? We all perceive reality a little bit different from one another, but there are commonalities which we agree to call the truth. I claim to know nothing, but this is what they told me.
And welcome everybody to episode 6, 7, 8. I don't know. We're here at Perceptions Radio.
5. It's number 5.
Oh, it's number 5. Episode 5. We're going to have another fun night tonight. I got my good buddy, where is he? Captain Sargent?
You know, that's a contradiction, using an officer and an enlisted man mix. But yeah, I've gotten that before.
I don't know what to call you anymore because everybody's using aliases lately, and you know.
Oh, yeah, like your guest for tonight.
Yeah, it's not Mark Sargent though. It's like that was when you were just a foot soldier. Now we're at sea, so I figured it should be Captain Sargent.
You know, if my dad was actually a sergeant in the Air Force, and when he had to answer the phone, he had to say Sergeant, Sergeant, and so everybody thought he was messing with him, and he got in a lot of trouble.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I never knew that story.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, you know, tonight we're going to do part 2. I had another guest scheduled, but this is so much more important because of that interview we did with the Navy guys. And at this point, one of them, you know, he put his name out there, so we can introduce him tonight as Sean, a.k.a. Robert. And let me see if I can find him here. Hold on. Oh, wait. Is that him? Sean, is that you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Does that song does it just come blaring on when you open the door? How does that work?
It happens like that, you know? It just does.
For those who don't know what that track was, that was In the Navy by Village People.
I didn't know it was going to be that loud. It sounded like
it was really loud.
The drums are bleeding.
Sorry about that. Actually, enough of that. We ran the first part of the conversation that you had with Mark and I the other day, and it got a really good welcome from the internet and a lot of questions. So I called you earlier today, and I was like, listen, why don't you come on? Why don't we field some calls? Because we don't have enough of that interview to cover like a full show. So what do you think? Like, are you open to that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
Be pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, no worries. If anybody comes on that's rude, we'll just burn them down. So that's fine.
All right. Let's give out the number because I always forget to do that. It's 866-37-TRUTH or 866-378-7884. And we'll see what happens tonight. But I wanted to ask Sean, like, what kind of response or feedback did you get? If not from emails, like, what about, you know, guys that you work with, and are more people catching on now that you're talking about this?
Yeah, actually, it's been kind of surprising. I've been talking to a few people at my job at work, and some of them watched the interviews with mine and that chief submariner, and they're really starting to catch on to some of the points that we're bringing up. And I'm just thankful enough that I have a few people in my life that have an open mind and are actually able to, you know, put aside preconceived notions. It's kind of great.
Right on. I know that every time we talk, and I'm looking at it right now, our good friends at the DOD are listening in. So I don't know if it's just because you're talking about this topic or what.
Yeah, you never know. I'm pretty sure once I kind of came on the out with all this stuff, and probably a lot of it has to do with how the show is titled, and I'm sure they have a bunch of buzzwords that they look for, and I'm sure I'm on their watch list now. It's all right.
Hey, John, you should bring up real quick what exactly you're talking about when you say you're seeing the DoD on your screen.
Oh, yeah. Just one of the various programs I use to look at certain ports, and it seems that every time we connect in Skype, my one protocol in the UDP keeps coming up blocked, and it says DoD Network Information Center. So, and this only happens when I speak to Sean.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And again, you and I talked about this. It's absolutely protocol on their part, because even though he did not say anything about the Sparrow system specifically, limitations, payloads, ranges, and anything like that, they have to follow up on everything, regardless of how. I'm sure there's guys, whoever's tracking this one, whoever's in charge of this one, is probably just rolling his eyes, going, "Oh, do I really have to do this?" Because in his mind, it's probably sounds like it does to everybody, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so you're the lucky guy that gets to get pinged.
And you're right. It could be innocuous. It could be nothing. But the fact that we're just mentioning military systems and maybe a certain country or whatever.
Oh yeah,
those keywords together just set something off.
Well, yeah, that and you don't know. It's like no offense to you, Sean, but because you and I we talked about this a little bit before the show, which is look, they don't know if tomorrow morning you're going to say, look, if you use a chewing gum wrapper, some household bleach, and a toothpick, you can disable the Sparrow system by doing this. They don't know that, so they're not going to take any chances. So they're just going to.
I know I could, and I know Matt. What's his name? MacGyver could, and probably James. Part of that. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we could get into it, but I think we only have about an hour left of the recording. So I really wanted to use this first segment to maybe go over details, things that we didn't discuss. So, maybe after the show, you always say, "Oh, I should have said this. I should have said that." Is there anything you want to add to the conversation that maybe we didn't cover?
That maybe the submarine guy interrupted you on.
Yeah.
The only thing I've really been thinking about is there's a lot of different topics that people in this community have brought up that have really led to anyone with an open mind. It's kind of, you can't have any deniability with it anymore that the globe model doesn't add up when you look at what we can actually see as empirical evidence. And some of the things I've thought about is once you get to that point, once you get to that tipping point, it's no longer about how much you can speculate on and try to test. It's, to me now, and I was talking about this earlier with John, to me now it's about trying to find something completely 100% solid. And I've been doing a lot of searching right now, and I know a few other people in the community are really searching for that one thing that's really going to put the final nail in the coffin on the globe model. And I've been working really diligently on it. And honestly, one thing that I wanted to cover the other day is anyone listening to this, I charge anyone that has any doubt with the globular model, and if you think anything that we're saying is legitimate, I challenge any of you to go out and try to do your own experiments, do your own tests. Now is the time. We're in the 21st century. We have Skype, we have all this social media. We could collaborate something and work together instead of speculation and convergence all the time. We need to work together and come together and try to figure this thing out, instead of just being kind of broken up and letting everyone, putting doubt in everyone's mind and casting a shadow of doubt on this whole topic. That's my take on it. Maybe that's a little bit too philosophical. I don't know.
No, not at all, man. And you're right. You're absolutely right. The infighting has to stop. you're right. Everybody's got the tools, which is why, I kept beating it into people's heads after every clue. It's like, look, do your own research. I should have just said, don't take my word for it. Go out there and try something for yourself. Prove me wrong, because that's really what it turned into. It's what you're saying. It's like, look, prove it's a globe. Just prove it. And if I ever get on a show where somebody asks me, it's like, well, prove it's flat. I go, no. The burden of proof is on you now. You've had 500 years to work this thing out, and so you should have stacks. You should have a dump truck full of information that you can use against me, and which is why I was so surprised that when I put the first 3 or 4 clues out, that I didn't get somebody calling me or emailing me and saying, here's how it all goes wrong for you. Here's how it fail. 100% debunked. RAP, case closed, that sort of crap. No. I mean, it's October 1st as of right now, and it hasn't happened.
No, wait. When you say a dump truck full of proof, are you talking about like NASA? Like these are the same people that lost all the telemetry data, right? From going.
Yeah. The dump truck full of telemetry data from the Apollo missions.
That's what dump truck, and then they put it in the landfill. Yeah. By the way, Sean, when we were talking earlier, you said it was okay that I use your real name, right, tonight? Because obviously the cat's out of the bag. But
yeah, pretty much, because I commented on some of the comments on Mark's channel. So, I mean, if anyone put 2 and 2 together, they would have seen my last name. Then they would have matched it up to my name tag on the video. So, yeah.
You caught me off guard because I don't remember saying that I was going to use my real name. I always go by Jonathan. I didn't want my real name to get out.
No.
And we still don't think we've used it. But he also what he was saying, before we did the first interview with him, was that there's only one Sea Sparrow missile training center in the whole country. So it wouldn't have been too tough to figure out who it was.
Yeah.
So no worries.
If anybody's tuning in right now, let me just give out the number real quick while we're talking. It's 866-37-TRUTH, 866-378-7884. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. You got it, Sean.
All right. Another thing I wanted to say, and I've talked to both of you guys offline a few times about this subject, but like for the people out there, I've noticed a kind of a big common denominator for all videos, about this topic. And there's a lot of people out there that are paid to, come on to channels and just, blindly just spew out rhetoric of math and whatever math can work in this model. Me and John talked about it. It's not the math that's the issue. You can make your math, fit any model you want. You can work out the math all day long. But when the math is proven, math doesn't prove what you can see in reality, though. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about with that, right?
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and one thing is to address some of the people that I've seen in other videos about this topic. I'm going to call you out, because once I started bringing some stuff to the table, there seems to be less and less shills that have been, coming on channels and trolling, because, I'm not trying to bring any glory to myself. And one thing I wanted to address is some of the people that were talking about me on the channel, as far as the comments go, saying, oh, he's just trying to stroke his own ego, all that stuff. You got it all backwards, man. This is not a topic that is, looked highly upon in the world.
Yeah, this is not an ego boosting topic.
I got him right here. There you go. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, literally, I've heard that. I've seen it mentioned a few times, and I don't understand the line of thinking with that, because this is not something that is popular by the worldview by any means. If anything, it's social suicide to sit here and stand on a podium and say, yeah, I believe the world is flat. I'm going against the grain of every science textbook that's been printed in the past 500 years.
Yeah.
under the stipulation of I'm using my own brain and my own eyes to be able to tell what's going on around me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You know,
I've gotten so many emails from people who listen to the show that say, yeah, I believe it, but man, I made a, but they said, man, I made a mistake when I tried to tell my family, my spouse, my significant other, because if they're not ready for it, and most people aren't, they look at you like you're insane.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
look at you like you have two heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, Mark? I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for next week.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want
we
to
talk? We can talk about it.
That email that you got today, because I read it to Sean earlier, and I like the way it totally validated everything him and Jason said on the air the other day, as far as the gyroscope and.
Oh, do you got it in front of you? Do you want to read it?
I don't have it. I was wondering if you'd like to read it.
Oh yeah. Hang on. Let me make sure I don't crash. If I crash, it's going to be Windows 10. Just so you know.
Thank you, Mike.
1 second. But yeah, and it is responsible because of the guest we're going to have next is all because of Sean and Jason. Sean came out first and talked about it, and people. Yeah, it's like anything. Hang on, let me make sure. Again, if I crash, I'll come back, and you guys will just have to fill it with something. But 1 second. Give me.
It's really good because. When these people start coming out and they're like, I have the technical expertise, I have 20 years of experience, and they start, giving their name and location and company they're with, it's not just some random, hit and run person on the internet. Some conspiracy
I got it.
Guy that's,
I got it. You ready?
This was really encouraging. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this one came yesterday. And I sent it to Jonathan, and it's Mark, I've been listening to your show for the last month or so. I wanted to share my professional opinion on one of your recent topics. I am a professional pilot and certified flight instructor. I run my own business at a smaller airport in the Midwest. In my previous 6 years teaching others how to fly, I can absolutely verify that your recent guest's claims about the gyroscopic properties of the aircraft's attitude indicator are correct. Robert did a great job, well, in this case it's Sean. Sean did a great job in describing how it works, and he was spot on. Never in any textbook or other literature have I read anything about correcting for a curved Earth. We rely on those instruments in bad weather and literally risk our lives trusting that the instruments will not deviate from straight and level ever. That's all caps. That alone was proof enough to a well-educated pilot to question everything I thought I knew, and I am now very much convinced that we have some serious examining to do regarding the world in which we live. And he's going to, he mentioned a little bit later on that he was going to work on some long-haul flights and try to work with distance. But that's brilliant. And the whole thing is because of what Sean came out with, and it's great. Because again, it's the analogy is nobody wants to be the first one on the dance floor. Nobody, it's like, oh, let's wait for the drunk people to get on the dance floor, then the people show up. And that's what this is. Sean is the drunk person on the dance floor. No, it's but this guy, and so the point is, this guy, I called him and I talked to him today, and he said, yeah, he goes, I'll be on your show. I said, you want to be anonymous? Nope. He's going to come out and say it. I'm not going to tell you who he is right now. You'll have to watch the show to find out who he is. But basically the video is going to be called "Flight Instructor," something flat Earth, and he's not shy about it. And who else? Who's going to be next? Who's going to come after that? Air Force? Commercial pilots, full blown, people that are flying people around. I don't think that's probably going to happen anytime soon, unless they're retired.
Yeah. Because they have a bias, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's that, and you don't want to question your annual physical probably wouldn't turn out too well if that was brought up. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Good point though, because would an Army grunt or a Marine grunt who's got his boots on the ground really have anything to lose? I mean, the world's flat. But if you put an Air Force guy who has a chance of being a test pilot or going into a NASA program start speaking out, I mean, he's really cutting his own throat now.
Yeah, potentially. Which is why the first guys that came out to talk about this, although they still haven't put their name to paper, was Army artillery. Two different artillery guys. And what did I say, Sean, the other day? I was talking to a fire control. If I correct me, I said this wrong. A fire control specialist,
Technician.
The guys that sight in stuff for.
Yeah, for the Army.
Yeah, like for snipers and for artillery and sometimes gunships, and one of those guys emailed me and said that they in fact, I think he left me a voicemail saying that he had dealt with some of that stuff, and it's all flat. Everybody, basically, everybody's going to say the same thing. So what you're saying, and what so now we've got air, we've got sea, we've got under the sea, we've got surveyors, both big tracts of land, commercial surveyors, and highway surveyors, and they're all basically the whole premise is that they're saying, look, everybody's heard about the curvature of the Earth, but nobody's applying it in everyday life. It's not being put to practice. It's just something we hear about. Nobody's actually, when they go to their daily job, when they go to what you were doing on a day-to-day basis and what surveys are doing, nobody's actually using it. It's just a word in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it really is.
Yeah. Who would have thought? And that's why everybody, even the pilot that I was talking to, he goes, like everybody, they all end up repeating the same thing, which is, I can't believe I missed it. I can't believe I missed it. It was right there in front of me the entire time. And I think I have, well, you and I, we spoke about this last time, which was my theory on how they missed it was the same as everybody else, which was because nothing went wrong and your day-to-day stuff goes off. It's like, oh yeah, I got my job done. It's never going to be on your radar. No pun really intended with you in mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's really encouraging to hear a letter like that, especially from someone I've never met before. They don't know me from Adam. They just listen to what I had to say, and it really came down to that one breaking point. And I kind of had a chuckle with myself earlier. I was reading some of the comments on some of the videos about me and Jason and you guys on the show, and one of the people actually said, I have a feeling the next show is going to be titled something gyroscopes. And as soon as I read that, I just started laughing. And but honestly, though, that is the one thing, other than everything else, that's recent to me that I've really thought about. That's kind of proven my point even more.
Yeah, yeah. And in all fairness, because I'll be as transparent as I can, I received some emails early on. I haven't gotten one from a long time from commercial pilots, that were defending the globe. Like you said, they have a bias, and they say no, you're absolutely wrong. It's globe. I've seen it. I've seen the curve. That whole thing. I try to send them the weather balloon pictures, and they get all upset, and they don't want to talk to me anymore. But I think the more convincing argument for them would be the gyroscope.
Yeah, how do you debate that?
Yeah. I mean, they all know what it is. They're all trained on it. To a certain, some more than others, but they all know exactly what it can do because it's the guidance part of what they do. And in fact, this guy was mentioning he threw a new little wrinkle, and he'll talk about it when we have him on next week. But he was saying that, look, think about, everyone says, well, you have to deal with the curvature of the Earth with a gyroscope. But it also, like he's seen it when he just goes over a steep hill. When he goes up and over the hill and sloping down, he can see this thing doing exactly what it's supposed to. And he goes, look, going down on the other side of a hill, is how much different is that from, it's just a steeper version of the curve if the curve exists. And he goes, and it doesn't. It's never there.
Yeah.
That's a great. After I read that letter you sent this morning, I was just like thinking about when planes fly in the clouds and they have to trust on the instrumentation, they have visibility, and I'm thinking, how could you have any orientation to the flat Earth if it's not flat? Like if there's no flat horizon.
Well, excellent point. That's what Sean was saying. And feel free to jump in, Sean. Where when you and Robert were comparing notes, and you guys were saying, how do the ships get back, or how do the planes get back to the carrier if it's a globe? Because their guidance systems would never let them get back there. They'd just be lost as soon as they took off.
Yeah. I mean, especially, as soon as you go out over the horizon, so to speak, you lose perception after that. But I don't know. It's just, there's some things, I just tell people this. For people that doubt it and they just don't want to hear it, I just say this. Are you just militantly doubting it because you want to hold on to the illusion for no apparent reason? Or, be honest with yourself. Don't just come on and, like, I'm guilty of this. I did this whenever I first got into this because, like I said before, I used to be a naysayer. It was ludicrous to me. But be open to reason. Be open to logic. Don't just parrot stuff that you hear because it's in a textbook. That doesn't make you smart, Go out and do some work for yourself. We talked about experimentation. But even if you don't have the time to do the experimentation, listen to the reasoning. Listen to the logic. Listen to what people are actually saying and try to conceptualize it. Me and John were talking about this earlier, Jonathan, and the biggest thing when you bring up flat Earth to somebody is the indoctrination, shunning of it, which was you were taught in school. Oh, well, back, a long time ago, 600 years ago, when people thought the Earth was flat. Oh, I'll get back to it.
We'll continue that after the break. Everybody hold tight. This is going to be a great night.
Frequency with Chris and Shuri Geo. Friday and Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Yeah, we're back here with Sean from the U.S. Navy. That was in honor of you, man.
Thank you.
It's my show. I can do whatever the hell I want.
Wow. That was great. I actually like that more than In the Navy by Village People.
That's an old one.
No, I was looking at the interview. We can actually run it in the second hour of the show. So why don't we just keep talking here? Because
right.
Waiting for callers too. And let me number
yeah.
out real quick. I always forget. 1-866-37-TRUTH, 866-378-7884. Anybody, please call.
Yeah, no, it's late, but come on, call. Somebody in fact, somebody should be, our haters. Somebody should be staying up for that.
Yeah, one of our two callers should call.
One of our two callers.
Well,
yeah, everybody. It's like everyone's sleeping. It's like, I'll just listen into the morning. I'll listen to the repeat. Nobody listens live.
You know what it is? They wait to hear it on YouTube so they could put like all their snarky comments.
That's it. Yeah, because they can't comment. Oh, I think you can comment though on the TFR page.
Well, the ones that have nasty things to say, they don't even watch the video or listen to it. They just start slamming it.
Yeah. People will do that all the time. Where it's like, they're 2 minutes. They don't even go 2 minutes in. It's like as soon as it's queued up, it's like thumbs down. You guys suck at everything. And that's.
You know how you really haven't made it mainstream with this topic yet? Because I haven't seen one person post I made $11,000 at home just by working.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And by the way,
So,
your friends, Sean, are hiding. Now it's the Ghana Government Ministry of Communications. I don't see them anymore.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so
That's good. Well, that may not mean anything, though. We'll see. You'll have to let us know if they come back on, though.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying right before we went to break? I had to cut you off mid-sentence with the music.
Oh, it's fine. I was just basically saying, the whole idea behind when you bring up flat Earth to somebody, there's this, chip on everyone's shoulder because of what they're taught in school from an early age. Children are very impressionable. They soak up everything that they're taught, and they're taught that people back in the day when they believed the world was flat, they're the line of thinking with that was, oh, we'll sell off the edge, and then that was always the sticking point with anyone that's ever believed in a flat world. Oh, you archaic, cretin. How could you ever think the earth is flat? You would sell off the edge. Ha, 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 ha. I'm so learned with all my science, so-called. And what they don't realize is to actually sit there and talk to someone about the flat earth, you need to understand where someone's actually coming from. You need to understand the model that they describe and how circumnavigation can align the same model as the way the globe does. You explain North and South Pole. People need to actually investigate these things before they just dismiss them immediately. Because that, the true... I was having a conversation with somebody one time. The true sign of intelligence to me and to that person, we've talked about this, is admitting that you don't know everything and being open-minded enough to accept the fact that you might have been wrong.
Or lied to.
Exactly.
In this case, because so many people take things as gospel, and yeah, of course, there's people that will say that actually believe that everything they hear in the news is spot on correct, and that the government would never lie to them, the media would never lie to them, no one would ever lie to them. I know there's some of those people out there, but for the rest of us who are suspicious, in varying degrees, this is the last hurdle. I had some guy put it to me pretty well, and he goes, once you get past this is the open-minded key right here. In fact, I'll use the Star God's quote, which was, he goes, you want to see how open-minded someone is? They say, oh yeah, I'm open-minded. I'm open to all sorts of concepts, really. Hit them with this. It's called flat earth spray. And you hit them right in the face with it. And you see what happens. Do they recoil and say, no, because flat earth is literally the biggest concept, the biggest open-minded concept I've ever seen.
Speaking of lies, though, like I've never lied to my own son about this since we started talking. I've had him on calls with me, right?
Yeah.
The other day. And so he's watched all your clues, and he looks at it and he says, yeah, this makes a lot more sense than what they've taught us in school. And so we always had this thing since he was about 3 or 4, and I'll say, what won't Daddy ever do to you? And he goes, lie to me. And I go, how come? He goes, because you love me. And but it's sweet, but I'm thinking of all the people that are going to have another reason to hate their parents for lying to them. Like, you lied to me about Santa Claus, you lied to me about the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. Now you're going to tell me that the Earth is flat?
Yeah. In fact, here I've got one for you. You're going to like this. That just because people, even when you're in family discussions, you're people that have known you for years and years and years, they turn on you. Let me, if you don't mind, let me read this real quick. I got this from an older gentleman who just, in fact, he emailed me just before the show, and he said, "Greetings, sir. I cannot begin to tell you how truly moved I was when watching the videos. I came here in 1948 and live in a world of closed minds. I had believed for many years the moon landing was a joke. Most do not want to talk about it. Recently found myself a bit uneasy as my 31-year-old son was explaining the flat earth theory at a family gathering and met with such resistance. I knew he might be onto something, but I kept my 2 cents out of the conversation. Not anymore. Thanks to this well-thought-out presentation, you great sir are 1 in a billion. Please keep up the battle for truth." And And yeah, that's exactly what I would expect, because you don't want to be on the losing side. So when somebody in a family gathering says, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's flat," and people just descend on him like wolves, somebody there's probably somebody else in the room that buys it, but they can't. What are you going to do? You're gonna get attacked like he is? It's what?
I'm picturing that father-son bonding like that scene from the movie Butterfly Effect when he went to see Dad in the Psycho.
Yeah. Yeah, where he gets where
Flat, son, I'm trying to tell you, and then he chokes him out.
Yeah. But again, it's gaining ground like that. The fact that his son was bringing it up, his 31-year-old son, and he was buying into it a little bit, enough to where, remember the first rule of Flat Club is you do not talk about flat Earth. And his son brought it up, and even though he watched the ridicule happen in that room, he goes home, he looks it up for himself, he does his own research, and now he's in. It's fantastic. I love watching stuff like that.
I got to tell you, it's a guilty pleasure, but like when you tell people about this and they don't believe you and they chuckle and they're like, "You don't really believe that, do you?" And then you just stare at them.
That awkward glance.
Yeah. It's like you just told them like first I'm going to kill your dog, then I'm going to kill you. And you're just saying the flat Earth. I mean, it gets that kind of response. Like they really get nervous.
It's never been. And feel free, by the way, if something's on your mind, Sean, on anything. But I've never seen a topic this polarizing, and this in any conspiracy or non-conspiracy. Topics that we're really divided on. Like race or abortion or women's rights or all this.
So you're saying Roe versus Wade and Republicans and Democrats, that's all been a distraction to keep us away from the flat Earth?
No. What I mean is the people get mad so quickly about this. I mean, there's people that are on the what I'm saying is nobody's on the fence about flat Earth. It's either because remember, we've talked about how people will just flip. It's like flat Earth ridiculous, flat Earth is dumb, flat Earth is stupid, and then you get this pause, and then flat Earth makes sense. There's no middle ground. It's like nobody says no. It could be or may not be. I don't know. I really don't care. Nobody says that. It's the conditioning was so thick that that's why you see those fights break out in the forums. People just lose their minds.
You know what this just reminded me of, by the way? And then Sean, you can have the floor.
Sorry, yeah, we're taking it from you.
Oh, you're good.
It's the Mark and John show.
Hey.
No, I'm thinking of like what was that? Like Tom and Jerry cartoon or something along those lines. Yeah. And like the guy would like go to hit the bird, and he's sure he killed it, and then he lifts his hand and it's not there and it's on his shoulder. Yeah. So I'm picturing this little character who shows up and he tells the guy like, by the way, the Earth is flat. And then everywhere the guy goes, he goes, "See, still flat." And then the guy's driving down the road. He goes, "Look straight ahead." Yep, flat. And no matter where the guy goes to get away, this dude shows up with like a ruler, with a level, and all this other crap. And he goes, "Yeah, that's just what I thought. Flat."
Yep. In fact, there was a guy, I promise I'll stop talking after this, there was a guy that did a kind of a parody. He used a Bert and Ernie cartoon from Sesame Street, and he took just the video and then overlaid it with his own voice, where Ernie was torturing Bert about flat Earth, kind of like what you were doing just there, where he just kept popping over his shoulder. It's flat. It's flat. He kept saying, like, "You're a globe head. You're a globe head." Well, that's brilliant.
I got to see that.
Yeah. So Sean, what's next on your, I mean, you're obviously out. That's for sure. You've given people just about every bit of information you could give them, to prove you're legit. Do you have any thoughts? You going to approach anybody else with it? What are you going to do?
Honestly, before I touch on that, I just want to say this just to kind of touch on what you guys were just talking about, with that son talking about the flat Earth and how his family was kind of ridiculing him. Uh-huh. That's how the conditioning has been working really well. When people are, like you said, pounce on him like wolves over something that should be something that you could just easily talk about. Yeah. The conditioning is going pretty good. The people up on the higher echelon have done a good job at playing upon people's, needs and wants, as far as, the want of seeming intelligent. If you could sit here and, downplay somebody that brings up the flat earth because you've been taught to, spew out rhetoric out of a textbook to make yourself seem intelligent, you're catering to your own ego at that point. And that's just to touch on one of the comments that was written about me. The real people that are catering and stroking their own ego, in my opinion, are the ones that sit there and put down, someone's asinine notion of the flat earth just because they can read, all these supposed proofs out of a textbook. And then that's my point. I talked to you about this a couple weeks ago. You remember whenever I brought up talking about the flat earth is like having a golden goose egg. Once you realize, that you got a hold of something really valuable, but it's a golden goose egg that's invisible to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point.
No one else can see it. And like you said, until you get to that tipping point, there is no in between. Like you said, you either outright just want to deny it, and then eventually, if you're a logical person and listen to reason, you're going to be on board with trying to figure out everything about it. It's not going to be, well, maybe, because like you said, it's a very polarized topic. And that's pretty much all I wanted to recap on with what you guys were saying. As far as what I have plans for, since I'm on the out now, with my name and all that stuff, honestly, for anyone listening and anyone that listens to this after it's posted, I don't really care what happens with me as far as all this stuff coming to, fruition with more people figuring this out. I don't care about if I could, get any monetary or social, status out of this. I just want people to think for themselves. That's the whole reason why I did this, and truly based upon principle for me. I don't care to ever have a following. I just want people to love truth. That's my biggest thing. I want people to really love truth and seek after it, and that's really my take on it. As far as anything else goes, I'll just be happy to be a member of this community and help it in any way I can, and that's the truth for me.
Wow.
But
well said.
With you off the air too. I mean, I know you're a man of integrity, and you're also very spiritual. You believe in God. So how do you think this truth is going to serve everybody in the ultimate end?
Well, I know in this day and age, the whole debacle with globe earth, flat earth, whatever, a lot of people with spiritual background have implicated that, we're being lied to about what the earth actually is and what it's like, because it would implicate a creator. And I understand if some people listening don't necessarily jive with spirituality. I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anyone. I'm not a militant religious person by any means, but I will say the impact that I think it's going to have is if we're truly being lied to, and it ends up we are able to prove and come together as a community that we have been lied to, I think the biggest impact it's going to have is pointing people towards, well, maybe we are significant. If we're not some globe in the middle of, nowhere, maybe there is a creator. And I honestly think it's going to change and rock people's world at a very spiritual level as far as their reverence towards something greater than themselves, instead of this self-serving, mankind that we have today.
Maybe even a better sense of self and where they stand in relation to all things. That now they have boundaries and something. Real quick, there's somebody waiting on the line about 2 minutes now. Let me get them on here and see if they have questions for you. Hold on one second.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, caller. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hey, everybody. This is Randy. I'm in Austin, Texas, and been listening to you guys for several months now. And I had a curious response from a friend of mine who is an electrical engineer, and he works in the semiconductor industry, and he works with laser systems and stuff. And I shared with him the interview that y'all did on with the fellow who worked with the Sparrow missile system, I guess.
Yeah, we got him on right now.
Oh, cool. I had an interesting response. I wanted to read it to y'all, and then maybe you could respond. He said, infrared is the same kind of electromagnetic wave as light. They are the same thing. Infrared is just a slightly longer wavelength than the visible spectrum. So for them to say that infrared does not lie is nonsense. There is no difference in the behavior of infrared and visible light. They are the same thing. Infrared is light. What little I've listened to about this, they never seem very scientific. They try to use jargon to make it sound like they are, but it's always wrong. Listening to nonsense about UFOs is more fun to me than this, even when it's obviously nonsense. So, how do you respond to that?
Sean?
He seems to worship. He seems to worship scientism, and he likes to see math and numbers. He also did a quick calculation about buildings leaning, farther away from each other. Because I mentioned, how come you never see the perspective of cities that are miles and miles long? You never see the buildings start leaning away from each other as they supposedly go down the quote curve. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they should be skewed. They should be like almost diagonal, leaning back as it goes over the edge of the horizon.
Yeah, I have a response to that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
From what he said, he mentioned, infrared and regular light. I would say this. I've been in the military for 10 years. I deal with this stuff on an everyday basis. Infrared does not act like normal light. To say that is you want to throw around the word of, he's just loosely using, scientific jargon to sound smart. Well, honestly, that statement has no basis because infrared does not act like normal light. Infrared allows you to see heat spectrums upon, objects. It doesn't act like light. You can see objects with the absence of light. It does not work the same. The propagation of that light, the principle is there, but it's very, very different. You can go outside in a pitch black, absolutely no light, and see images perfectly with infrared. So to sit there and say that infrared and regular light are the same, that's not true at all. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Right. Yeah, it's only the same in that they're both waves. It's part of the same spectrum, but yeah, that's all the only similarities between the two.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yep. It's a little frustrating talking to him because he just, in my opinion, he seems to, like I said earlier, worship scientism kind of. He wants.
That's usually the case.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
But there was another interesting response he had. I mentioned about you never see buildings curving away from each other, and what's that skyline? What's the city with that that's supposedly several miles out from
Chicago skyline?
Was it Chicago or New York or?
Yeah,
you always
Chicago.
talk about
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah. I mentioned that. I said, how come you never see the tops of those buildings start leaning away from each other the farther you look down that city skyline? And said to me, I did a quick calculation, 2 tall buildings, 1,000 feet tall, 2 miles apart. If the Earth is a ball with the claimed radius, the tops of those buildings will be about 6.1 inches farther apart than the bases of the buildings. Probably pretty hard to see.
Yeah. So, well, he can claim that if he wants, and just to kind of wrap that up, I say this. They had a guy on here not that long ago. He was a surveyor. Whenever they build all these buildings and projects and all this stuff, 1 mile away from each other, they do plenty of projects that are surveyed out longer than a mile, where they're constructing buildings, and every single time this is coming from these professionals saying that they always build flat. So I'm going to take the guy that's done it for 30 some odd years word on it over some math equation.
Yeah, again, anyone that's heavy into science background, they're going to resist harder than anyone, because it's not just the normal conditioning they've had. They've had additional, especially if you've gotten your master's or your PhD, they're going to be the last ones to be convinced, because this whole theory basically negates a huge amount of their education, and they don't want to face it.
Yeah.
And it's and not that they're doing like a deliberate reaction. It's a knee-jerk response. They're only parroting back what's in the textbooks. So don't feel bad. And what I try to tell people is, like, everyone's got their own absorption period. Some people can do it in a couple days. Some people do it in a couple weeks. And if you're an astronomer or an astrophysicist, you might as well just start drinking now, because you're not coming out of this. So don't worry.
All right.
Yeah, it was just, I found myself getting kind of frustrated. I'm like, hey, just realize where this guy's coming from. It's not worth, destroying a friendship over, certainly. Then I change the topic and we talk about other things, But I tried to put a few hooks in there, and he's just, like I said, I think he's stuck on the scientism.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all we can do is just plant the seeds, and then in time, it's going to gnaw at them. They're going to look at it and think about it, and then they're going to hear something, whether it's on YouTube, like Mark's video or something, and be like, "Oh my God, where did I hear this before? Oh wow, I can't." Then they'll come around. So yeah, don't ruin the friendship over.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Also, another thing was kind of curious is how do you explain one part of the Earth being dark and the other part having full daylight with the flat Earth model?
I'll explain it like this really quick before it breaks. If you think about it, the flat map, right? It's circular, it's a disk. You look at the sunlight and the moonlight as being orbital bodies above that flat world and acting kind of as a spotlight down, right? And you can see that angular light through cloud cover and stuff like that, and it's shining downwards. I believe it's based upon they're 180 degrees out from each other, and they just kind of circle overhead. And that's how you can explain the day-night cycle as far, just making it really simple, trying to be quick about it. But yeah, think about them as two things rotating above us, shining on different parts of the world at different times of the day, of that day. And that's really a quick way of putting it, but that's the best way I could say it quickly.
And I think the caller dropped off. I noticed the vault here, the thing that I'm using for the phone thing. When it gets down to a minute before break, it just resets. So, Randy, if you're listening, I'm sorry about that, but thank you for calling. And that was a good explanation, a good brief explanation. But Mark, what would you recommend for that? As far as out there that explained that what Randy was asking on that part.
Crap! I'm sorry. I was chatting with somebody else. I wasn't paying attention.
Get with the program.
Sorry. Hey, you should probably. Is Sean staying with us, or is he out now?
I'm with us for a few minutes. Next hour.
For after the break, I'm probably gonna hop off. So I know it's coming up soon.
All right.
Unless you guys are, if you guys are going to wait a minute before playing the pre-record.
Yeah, just a few minutes, and then we're going to start the pre-record. But yeah, hang tight, just for a few minutes.
All right, cool.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Boom.
Brap. Pow pow. Jonathan, turn your mic.
Everybody knows where they're tuned into, right? I mean, it's not like it's AM or FM. It's Truth Frequency Radio. I don't know, well, welcome back to Perceptions Talk Radio.
Real people, real radio.
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati. Sorry, Sean's got to go to bed.
Yeah, he is kind of young.
Whoa. I always get that. I always get that. It's okay, though. I see it as a blessing because when I'm like 40, I'll look like I'm like late 20s, so it's all good.
Yeah.
We're gonna run the rest of the interview, but let me just check before you disappear if anybody else is calling. 1 second. A million screens up. Oh, I don't see it anymore.
Oh, there was somebody there?
Oh, wait. No, nobody else.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Do you have any last words before you disappear for the night?
Yeah. I'll just say this to everybody. Think long and hard about what you believe. Dig down deep. You know, if we've been lied to about a lot of other stuff that's happened in society, you know, why is this any different? So investigate everything. Don't see people that talk about this stuff as just crackpots. Know how to identify someone that's trying to actually talk about this and intellectually, and like every one of us keeps saying, do your own work, do your own experiments. That's all I got.
Right on.
Right on.
And I want to say too, you're fast becoming a friend. That's a word I don't use loosely, but I'm enjoying the talks we're having off air. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a few more.
It's good, man. I'm glad.
Yeah,
he's an interesting guy. It's more than just flat Earth and missiles with him.
Yeah. So stay safe, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good night, all right? And you know, be honest to each other. Be honest with yourself, and yeah, have a good time.
Cool. Talk to you in a few.
All right, later, guys.
I'm saluting right now. He can't see it, but I'm saluting him. Did he give his rank? Did we ever talk about that?
No, he didn't.
Huh.
No, he didn't. So, oh, by the way, I think you have to drop him. Sorry, I shouldn't say that on air.
I'm afraid to drop him because I'll drop this whole thing.
Yeah, you're probably right. So maybe not. We'll just we'll just go into the clip, I suppose.
Oh.
Do you want me to do the lead in for the clip?
Yeah, you know what? I have it queued up. Let me see. I think we were 45 minutes into it. So yeah, I don't remember exactly where we were, but if anybody was listening to the first part, they'll know.
Yeah, you're right. So,
but yeah, do you want to say anything before we go?
Oh, it was well, just that this is the remainder of the conversation between Submarine Jason and Sean from the missile instructor. The Sparrow missile instructor, and it was really great. I mean, when I feel bad because we had to cut them off because of the length of the show that we were doing, but they really started getting rolling into this one and got into some really fun details and comparing notes, and it was great. I was just sat there, you know, it was late and I was still riveted.
Right on. And if anybody's confused, when you hear Sean and Robert, they're interchangeable. This is when he was anonymous. If you're listening, if you didn't listen to the first part. We're referring to Sean, who we just had on for the first hour, as Robert throughout this clip. So this is a pre-record we're going to put on right now. You ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Okay.
Level flight, right?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, you would be gaining altitude all the time. You know?
And you never do.
Exactly.
Wow.
Hey, can I read something to you guys? Speaking of trusting your instruments and stuff like that.
Sure.
It has to do with the stars. I found this website because I was looking into this reverse navigation fix. And it says this is on a website called TECEPE.com. It has to do with celestial navigation fundamentals. And talks about here, apparent movement of the stars. There's a couple of paragraphs. It says, using the Earth at the center of the universe model. Okay? Using the Earth at the center of the universe model, imagine that the Earth is stopped and celestial sphere is turning around it, completing a turn every 24 hours. You should not be confused by this idea. It's exactly what you observe if you sit and watch the night sky long enough. So it's telling you to look up at the sky and pretend that the Earth is not spinning, it's fixed, and the sky is moving around the Earth. Because that's exactly what it looks like.
Interesting. So yeah, so it's telling you that even though you're supposed to know that it's the exact opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah, the sky isn't spinning, even though all indicators point to that.
Exactly.
It's you that's spinning.
Exactly. So they're telling you to trust what you're seeing, but it's not what you're actually saying.
Huh. It's really good. Hey, before I forget, because I meant to ask this of you earlier, Jason, which was, and don't tell me if it's classified, and I know you'll probably joke that it's classified, but torpedo firing solutions.
Can't go there.
Oh, okay.
What's that? Go on.
Well, no, I'm just saying, with missiles, they didn't take into account any of the Coriolis effect or the curve. I would imagine, even if you had to speculate, that would be the same thing underwater.
Like we talked on the phone, the only thing I can remember having anything to do with the Coriolis effect was when we studied the theory of the inertial navigation systems. Now, with weapons, I don't know. I can't say yay or nay if it was even discussed with it.
Got it. But in navigation, it was actually in theory, like the land surveyors. Where, it's something we kind of talk about. You're going to put it into practice? No, or you're never going to put it into practice.
I don't know of any module or circuit board or button that you would press every 2 hours to a Coriolis effect. Don't miss the 2-hour button.
So you didn't actually you didn't happen to glance over any Coriolis effect device, button, switch, lever.
We didn't use it in any of our navigation principles. As far as charts and even with the charts, we didn't do it when we did a line. If you're going from the East Coast of the United States to the coast of Europe, it was a straight line across the chart. It wasn't none of this curved stuff that you see on some things. It was a straight line, man.
Oh,
straight shot. Path of least resistance.
So when you Google Map something and it shows that big bowed curve,
we never.
And what maps were you using? Like a Mercator map or
nautical charts?
Oh, the nautical charts.
Yeah.
But it never it was always a straight line. It never bowed even in the slightest. No. Huh. Same thing with you, Robert. Robert.
All right, I'm here. Sorry, I muted myself, so
no, it's okay. No, it's totally cool. With navigation, when you guys were plotting if you looked at any navigation charts, was the Submarine says that it was always a straight line, like Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, we did this. We did the same thing, and like I was telling you guys in the episode I did with you, you never account for it, and I know what type of map he's talking about. We have a topographical, nautical map. We have channels on it where it's shallower, where it's deeper. We have depth perception on different seas. All that stuff's taken into account, but you never take into account, a curve or anything like that. And we always did a straight shot. We never accounted for anything else. Yeah, we have all those charts too, and they're a top-down map. They're not based upon a 3D model. And I know Chief probably has the same thing. Obviously, a submarine can't quote to use GPS navigation because they're underwater all the time. But like I said in the last episode, consider the source. We use GPS, quote unquote, as a backup navigational tool. We always used our gyro first and foremost, always. But a gyro, understand this, a gyro works on a flat plane, period.
Yeah. Same thing with you, Jason. GPS was more, like you were saying, you periscoped up just to confirm with GPS, but that was it.
Yeah, and for all I know, there was no satellite. We're just using a strong Loran Charlie signal.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know.
Why? No, seriously.
I never saw it. I've been I've been trusting what I've been told. But
just because the button said GPS didn't mean it actually was GPS. It just meant that you were confirming a signal with something.
Could have been Bert and Ernie on the other end, for all I know.
And that's a lot of people. They have a misconception about GPS in general. People, if you actually take the time to conceptualize it, and there was actually an Air Force officer that got out back a few years ago that apparently leaked the fact that GPS was a land-based technology. And people always ask, well, how can you find out where you're at on a globe if it's not satellites up in the sky? It's called towers. It's called RF being propagated through space and triangulating depending upon how long it takes the signal to get there. You can triangulate any position in the world as long as you have some type of reference point, aka a tower that emits a signal.
We used to have ELF, extremely low. It was one tower, and you could pretty much transmit a message anywhere on the entire planet, underwater, above it, it didn't matter.
Wait, you used to use that, but now it's not being used anymore?
Yeah, it was phased out in early 2000s.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they called it ELF.
Yeah. It's up in Michigan, I believe, or something like that.
And the replacement system is classified?
Supposedly all satellites.
Supposedly.
But everything is, the way we communicate these days is a lot differently. Everything is, Alexander, who is it? Is it Alexander Graham Bell?
Yeah, the phone.
He did a wireless communications across a table way back then.
Not Tesla?
No, it was actually Tesla did it long before everyone else.
And
well, either way.
I mean, being able to transfer data along long distances through the air, I mean, we've been doing it for decades with all kinds of stuff. And, why shouldn't we be able to do it with some sort of, positioning fix? Like I said earlier, the Loran had capability of 1,500 nautical miles. That was an old system, for the military. I mean, because actually the military uses a different GPS signal than everybody else does. So maybe there's a totally different signal, different towers that they use for the system. They just call it global positioning. Because wasn't that in what's his name's book? All the satellites. Book? I forget.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which book?
What was the guy's name? He wrote a book, and that's the first book that had satellites in it. And then here a few years later, we start seeing satellites up in the sky.
Yeah. Oh. We never see a real picture of one in the sky, though, up in space.
No.
Always artist rendering, computer generated, whatever it is.
And it goes back to my question I asked you, Mark, in our conversation: is why is it you send all these picture-taking things into space, into the atmosphere, or whatever, and not one of them we spin around on a 180 and take the biggest selfie in history?
Yeah. And again, they did finally in July of this year, but it seemed, if you believe in coincidences or you don't, that they were waiting for that, that the flat Earth movement was basically calling them out. And they were dumb enough, again, I'm still trying to figure that part out, where they were dumb enough to actually say, oh yeah, by the way, here's the first selfie we've taken of Earth in 43 years. Why would you admit to that?
Why wouldn't they launch Cassini? Didn't they just first thing? Hey, as soon as we get far away enough, big picture, everybody smile.
Take the shot, yeah.
Everybody have all lights on in the world at the same time.
There you go. Yeah, and they're still not accounting for the satellites. I love the ISS real time or time lapse flyovers where the atmosphere should be just bristling with satellites. Nothing. You never see a glancing shot. If there's the what?
It's going too fast.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Of course. But yeah, they can't be going that fast, even though they need to stay in orbit as well. Whatever.
Exactly. So, okay, let me ask you this. Then, moving forward, with who else in the? Let me ask you this, because we've got a missile guy, a submarine electronics guy. I'm sorry, you call them what? ETs?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. I wore so many hats when I was in the Navy.
Oh, okay. All right. What if I had to make a call out to anybody else coming forward, because we get more military people than you might think listening to stuff like this. Who else would be out there that we could ask? It's like, okay, what other fun toys can confirm or deny this? Anybody that comes to mind? Pilots, Air Force?
Pilots. I think you'd be trying to bark up the wrong tree if you ever tried to talk to an Air Force guy that supposedly worked with satellites, because they never get.
Well, not even necessarily satellites. Well, yeah, there's that. No, I'm not gonna hope for hope's sake on that one. But as far as just retired Air Force guys that are working, we're looking for more high altitude stuff, or people that are involved in long haul. I would imagine, like heavy military cargo that's going 7,000 miles, 8,000 miles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Would you think? I mean, if you had to ask anybody, if either of you two had to ask anybody, who would you want to talk to?
I would want to talk to an SR-71 pilot.
That'd be good.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I got that phone call into that guy that I was telling you about. I
don't know
some details, but yeah, he's high up.
Yeah, I'd want to talk to them mainly because the same instruments they use to maintain attitude is the same ones they use in regular aircraft. As far as the gyro goes, it might just be a little bit more precise. But you're flying at those altitudes. If you're on a plane model, eventually they would have just flown into space, especially being that high up.
Good point, Jason.
I'd want to talk to Bill Cooper, but yeah, he'd probably yell at us until we're all nuts.
Yeah,
yeah. At first, but it's slowly but surely. I think this is becoming more of a kind of like the hidden. It's weird. It's kind of like this hidden conspiracy. The conspiracy people are like keeping under the covers. That it's like, yeah, they're telling people here and there, but what was that line that Chris Rock said? It's kind of like the Spice Girls' big album where nobody owns it, but they sold a lot of them, didn't they? And that's what this is really becoming like, because people, I think it's being talked about. I think that even radio show hosts and other people in the media, I think this is kind of like, really? Is this something real? No, like they're looking into it, but they can't really talk about it with their friends or not anything publicly. And if they do come out in public, it's like, no, it's ridiculous, it's dumb. It's like, where can I get more of these flat Earth videos? Maybe
it's like a secret temptation.
I'm sorry, what, Jason?
When I saw it, I thought it was completely nuts. But then, when like I say before, is when you finally figure out a lot of the lies you've been told your whole life.
Yeah,
you're a little more open-minded to even crazy stuff like this.
Yeah,
and that is the only reason I even considered even looking at it. Okay.
Was because you were open-minded enough to say, you know what, I'll give this.
Yeah, everything else has been a lie. Why not this?
Yeah, and Jonathan and I have kind of talked about that, where there's been enough conspiracy things floating around for the last 10 years, well, really since 9/11, that people have kind of been looking for the next big one, the next big, fine, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing. I
gotta say something though. Hearing these guys talk, and they're so sincere and everything, they're really, like, again, I want to thank them, but
yeah,
I only did this because I'm a ball buster. I just wanted to bust people's chops. Like, now it's gone too far.
I haven't even brought up. I was looking for like favorite slang words that Surface would use against subs and vice versa. Do you guys got any nicknames for each other?
Target, man, that's it.
Target.
What?
I just call everyone a squid.
Oh, really?
Usually people refer to us as bubbleheads. So.
Well,
yeah, we like to call them bubbleheads, but we're all squids.
Robert,
when the day's over.
You didn't hear what I said when you were off air. I said, no offense, but I said, submarine guys have to be smarter. They're in the equivalent of a foxhole out in the ocean. You're just sticking your head out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, never mind.
All right.
I don't take offense. The submariner's life is hard, when you can't see sunlight for days, it starts having its toll on you.
I would get claustrophobic. I couldn't do it.
We've had a couple of guys go nuts.
Really?
Oh yeah, we've two guys tried to take everybody down with them.
Whoa.
Nice. Yes. Abyss style, where they just start freaking losing it. Well, don't you guys? Yeah, with subs it's a little bit different. Don't you have to psychologically screen?
Yeah.
For just various little things.
Yeah, if you're certifiably crazy, they give you a shot.
Wow.
A shot. Nice. Well, is there anything? I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. Is there?
I do have another question.
Yeah. Please throw it at me.
Covered it a little bit, and Robert seems to have a pretty good angle on these accelerometers and things like that. Mm-hmm. We should be able to sense our elliptical orbit going around the sun because we're not on consistently the same angle, all right, going in this elliptical orbit. So every time there's a slight change, that should be able to be sensed with accelerometers here on Earth.
Yep.
Okay? And I tried looking for information on this, and I couldn't find anything. I looked for 3 hours, just plugging in stuff, Earth accelerometers, elliptical orbit, just whatever any kind of jumbled words I could put together to try to figure out something. I couldn't find anything on it. Because every time we're going around the sun, like I was telling you, Mark, the other day, turn one at the Daytona Speedway, and once you start to change that angle of attack, you're going to feel that on an accelerometer. But I can't find anybody who does that. So if somebody's out there with accelerometers, I don't know.
Yep, and what he's basically talking about is if we take an elliptical pattern around the sun, at that turn, we should feel an increase in inertia pulling against us because we're apparently being pulled back by the sun. But no one feels heavier. No one, nothing's shifted.
There's no gravity change in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nothing changes, and you're right. If that was the case, we would feel something, anything.
Especially at 66,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's another thing. Going to the moon. This couldn't have gone to the moon. All right?
Okay.
Imagine you're on a carousel.
Okay.
And it's spinning, I don't know, just say 10 miles per hour.
Yeah.
You've got a target that's 100 feet out from you that's spinning in sequence with you. Okay? But it's 100 feet away.
Okay.
And you, on this carousel, spinning at 10 miles per hour with your target, spinning the sequence around with you, you're going 60 miles per hour down the road. All right?
Yeah.
And now you try to shoot at that target. What's going to happen? Let's say you're using a 22, and you shoot at that target. What's going to happen when that bullet leaves the gun? It's not going to hit that target.
No, it can't because there's too many velocities affecting it along the way.
Right. So we're spinning at 1,100 miles per hour. The Apollo mission, the rocket, leaves Earth's atmosphere at 1,100 miles per hour. Well, we're spinning at 1,100 miles per hour because supposedly our atmosphere is doing it with us, right?
Yeah.
But right when you leave that atmosphere, it's like throwing a gum wrapper out the window going down the highway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention that the moon is orbiting us as well, And by the time you get out into the vacuum, you no longer being, affected by the atmosphere, like you said. But all of a sudden, you got to play catch up with the
The Kev Baker Show with Kev and the crew, Monday through Thursday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back once again, everyone. We're just going to jump right back into this because I want to make sure you hear it all before the show ends. And if we have a minute or two at the end, Mark and I will say goodnight and parting words. Mark, you still with us?
I am. Yeah, let's get right into it. It's a great ending to the interview.
Cool, man. Here we go.
The vacuum, you no longer being, affected by the atmosphere, like you said. But all of a sudden, you got to play catch up with a big old ball that's moving 66,000 miles an hour. And if anyone thinks our equipment could do that breakneck speeds back in those days, we can't even do it today is nuts. Because they would also have to be accounting for the moon rotating around the Earth still.
Yeah, everything that they've done, they've explained just two stationary objects going in between the two of them. They didn't cover 67,000 miles per hour going around the sun.
Well, can I say one thing to that?
Yeah.
I said to Mark recently, I said, what if the moon is only a few thousand miles away, right? If you can travel in a commercial jet 500 miles an hour when you go from LA to New York, you could be there literally in 4 hours, right? So let's say it's even 6,000 miles away, but it's still underneath a dome, right? It's still part of our atmosphere, maybe at a different density. And so, it wouldn't apply to what you're saying, but yes, if it was outside in space in a vacuum, then everything you're saying is true. And what if the bigger secret then is, guess what? Here, it's a double hoax. Not only did we not go to the moon the way that we were told, but we did get to the moon, and when they got up there, they turned around and looked down and said, oh shit, this is a flat Earth. That's why they looked like they got kicked in the nuts when they were in that interview.
Yeah.
Could have been. That's possible, although for me, I think they knew beforehand. And
I think they knew from Richard Byrd's expeditions. I think they knew.
Yeah, I think they knew.
I think that's why it threw all this stuff in the progression, is because once he found what he found, they were like, nope, no commercialization. And all of a sudden it was Operation High Jump and Operation Fishbowl. And then all of a sudden NASA was born because they wanted to figure it out.
Yeah, figure out the structure, and then after that, they were stuck.
I gotta watch Capricorn 1.
The what?
I gotta watch Capricorn 1 again.
Yeah, Capricorn 1. Basically a textbook instructional on how to fake a space program with the tools you got, and they weren't even shy when they did it. It was wonderful to watch from that standpoint. When I was watching it, I remember I'm old enough to remember watching it when it came out years ago. And it didn't even occur to me. It was entertaining even then, but it didn't occur to me because there was no real whispers of a fake moon mission. It was still an active program. That movie couldn't even be conceptualized today. Let's put it this way: they're never remaking that movie.
Oh, and they've never made any movies. They've never made any real movies.
Nope.
About the moon.
Nope.
But going to the moon. I mean, nobody's ever. It's crazy.
Yeah, people keep like Rob Skiba was giving me grief. It's like, oh, that shouldn't have been your first clue. I was going, what are you talking about? I watch a lot of movies, and that entire plot line has been kept at bay for 50 years, and nobody's apparently doesn't bother anybody. You know, we churn out remakes for everything else, but it's like, no, we're not going to make a movie about the move, the greatest achievement of all time. We're not going to even touch it. It's never been a straight to DVD version. The closest thing was Tom Hanks' thing, and they didn't really talk about. I'm going to download and watch that.
You know what's funny about that? It's kind of like that scene in Pleasantville where he says, "What's at the end of Main Street?" Well, everybody knows that. It's like, when you say to people, we knew, did we actually go to the moon? Everybody knows that. Of course, we went to the moon.
Of course we went to the moon. Yeah. Why would you ever challenge it? And you guys coming from the military side, rivalries between nations as about as good as anybody. You telling me the Russians just said, well, they made it first. Let's just pack it in. Shut it all down. Nope, close it down. Shut it off. Shut off all the space program. We're not going to do it anymore. You got to be kidding me. I mean, that's the whole point. The space race wouldn't have ended at the moon. It wasn't like this big finish line where America just planted the flag and, said, screw you, and that was it. Russians would have kept going. We would have kept going. We would have built it was a question of it's 2015. Now we should be talking about how many military personnel are on the moon, which is a whole nother plot line.
Well, they haven't even figured out how to get through the Van Allen belt yet.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that one.
And don't you love how just because they didn't know that it existed at the time, they still went through it? Because not knowing something makes it not have an effect on you.
Yeah, even though the Orion program, which is currently running right now, they're not they're sending unmanned capsules through because they say, oh yeah, we have to deal with the Van Allen problem. It's like, what are you talking about? Why? What Van Allen problem? That was solved in the 60s. There's no Van Allen problem, right?
Yeah, of course.
Anyway.
And it's the same reason why Russia just shut it down. Like you said, it makes no sense. If U.S. made it to the moon first, the next big ticket item would have immediately been Mars. It would have immediately been going out somewhere else and all the other countries. You would think if we found something so profound and the powers that be weren't feeding info like, hey guys, it really didn't happen. There's nothing up there. We need to backpedal, but let's just end this Cold War.
Yeah.
All you got to look at is, okay, we went to the moon in 1969, what they said. Okay, compare that to all other technologies during that time. What the computer was, what the television was, how you would talk to people with what we called the telephone back then. All these, what the automobile was, all these different things, and even things that didn't even exist back then, and what we have today compared to what we're doing with the space program. The space program went into severe regression.
Yeah.
Compared to what everything else in the world did as far as technology.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, your cell phone's more powerful than all the computers in NASA and on the rockets they supposedly went there with.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah, I mean, the space shuttle people, if you're not old enough to remember, I mean, the space shuttle program is officially dead.
Yeah.
There's apparently nobody running space shuttles anymore, which should be ludicrous. I mean, if we're all high and mighty when it comes to technology and space, we should be doing stuff. It's like, and they talk about Mars. Like, really, why aren't you going back to the moon? Why are there no condos on the moon right now?
Why don't we have a Cassini-type satellite just circling the moon, getting pictures of the dark side, for Christ's sake? Put a big floodlights on it and take pictures of the dark side.
Yeah.
So one day somebody's going to go up about 200-300 miles and they're going to take off their mask, kind of like was it John Lithgow? Was it in that movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Remember when they take off the gas mask and they were saying the atmosphere is perfectly fine, you can breathe?
Oh no, that was Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss, yeah.
Yeah.
There was somebody with, yeah.
Anyway, okay, you guys. I don't want to keep you too late because I know you guys are out on the East Coast. Parting shots. What would you like to see if you had any advice for new flat earthers out there, or what the flat Earth community can do? I'll start with you, Robert. What you got any parting shots for flat Earth right now? Anything you want to pass on?
I would tell anyone that's taking this seriously, I would tell them this, and I've said this before. It's okay to speculate about certain things, but I've said it time and time again, you got to rein it in, because we live in a society today that if there's a whole lot of conjecture and speculation, they'll try to toss it out the window. And I understand that that's what the globe side has to do to maintain their model, but I tell everyone, let's be above that and not play into that. If you want to take this seriously and you want the truth to come out, you need to talk about stuff that we know we can talk about, we can observe and see in natural space. And I'm a firm believer in empirical evidence and math matching observance. Talk about stuff that we know we can.
Nice. Well put. Jason, what you got?
Yeah, those are some good points, and I think we're all questioning it. I don't know. I'm like I said before. I'm not sure if I'm 100%. I don't know, but the next step we can do is either start proving it is a globe or proving that it's flat. One of the two. I don't care. I got to know.
Got to know. All right.
And so we need to go forward with trying to organize certain tests, like the reverse navigation fix on the moon from several states.
Nice.
Things like that. So maybe that Crow 77 guy knows a bunch of people with a bunch of telescopes who might be able to handle that kind of...
Hey, that's a good idea.
And don't forget, everything we're saying is always being monitored, because I just typed the word close on Google, and the whole phrase "close encounters of the third kind" came up. So,
oh, that's nice.
It's always listening.
Nice. Yeah. So I'd like to thank first Jason, Chief Electronics Technician for Nuclear Submarine, retired some years ago. He was in 20 years. And Robert, once again, coming back, missile instructor for the United States Navy. And thank you very much, you guys, for coming in. I think it was a great discussion.
Thank you, John.
And we'll talk to you guys again soon. Stay safe, and for everybody else out there, stay flat.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, so we're off. Wow, super guys. Really, there was a lot to take in, but I think the audience is going to absorb a whole bunch. By the way, Jason, you can swear now if you want.
Fuck me.
Go ahead. By the way, you can also make fun of New Jersey now.
Oh, that's last time I made fun of a Jersey girl, I got slapped.
Really?
No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
while I got him on here, I don't have this chief's number or his email or anything. Chief, I think you understand what I'm talking about with the gyro thing, don't you?
Oh yeah. It's XYZ access, depending on it's a fixed gimbal.
Yep. And after I thought about that, like truly, after I thought about that, think of how many aircraft we have, Chief, that like fly around off of these aircraft carriers, and they do sorties over thousands of miles, and they never have a change ever. You think that would be a big ticket item, like, oh yeah, this aircraft crashed today because his compensation for his gyro, didn't account for the curvature of the world. Like, you've
seen
never hear that.
Fighter pilots going, I don't know how fast they're going, like 50 feet, 100 feet above the water. You've seen those videos?
Yeah.
Couldn't be going that fast, that close to the water.
And maintain level flight and not crash into the water if we're a sphere.
Yeah, or fly away from it.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It doesn't work. And that's what really did it for me. After I thought about that, and I actually thought about, okay, well, this aircraft rotates around the gyro, but it never messes up the instruments. I was like, yep, I'm done. Yeah. That's all it was for me. I was like, I'm done.
So you're saying that the gyroscopic thing, it's set to the flat Earth. It's set to a flat plane.
Yes.
And so your ship or your submarine or anything... Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, once it's spun up, man, it will not change its orientation. As long as it has power to it, especially at the laser gyros that they use nowadays, it does not change orientation at all. At all.
It is. If you had a... let's say you have a plate sitting in front of you, okay? Mm-hmm. And on that plate you have the 360 degrees, all right? And when the only way that plate's going to register anything on those degrees is if anything moves around it. It cannot move And that's what that little gyro is this little thing. It's impossible to move it. You can't, because it's spinning so fast that it just holds its position in space completely. So you'll have a whole ship the size of an aircraft carrier. When it turns to the left, guess what? That little ball spinning is still pointing straight.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the gimbals move around it, which the gimbals are physically attached to the ship.
That little gyro is the zero reference point.
How many of those do you guys carry? Like, if one breaks, you have a replacement.
We have two. We have one primary on our forward side, and then an aft one that is always running as well, just in case it needs to be immediately accessed if the forward one goes down.
Gotcha.
And that's just the way it is. It's redundancy, and anyone that can argue that, I would love to hear the argument on that, because when you spin a gyro up, you can't sit there and tell me, oh, well, it naturally just changes its progression as we go around the world. And no, that doesn't matter, because a gyro, because of its RPM, counteracts the force of gravity with centrifugal force. That's how it stays level. That's how we use it as a reliable instrument. If it was always changing, you would constantly have pilots going off course. They would never be able to maintain a navigational point. We would never be able to plot properly around the world. It would not work if it was always doing that.
Once you actually did it,
it would be like always trying to balance on a medicine ball.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And that's pretty much what the surveyors were saying too. They were saying, look, everything we do is on a flat, every piece of work that we do is on a flat plane model. And they say, and that's fine and dandy, except that once you go far enough in the plane, the curve it's got to take effect.
If it's true.
If it's true, the curve is true. Eventually, the plane is going to have to change. It's going to have to bend. And he goes, they said, years and years and years and thousands and thousands of plots. He goes, it never bends. There's no curve anywhere. And it doesn't matter how far you go, it just never happens. It's talked about, but it's never used in practical applications.
Yeah, it's never practiced in actual natural observance ever.
Yeah. It's just something. Again, it's assumed. We talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, the Earth is curved. Oh, you're going to use it today? No. You use it tomorrow? No.
Yeah.
You ever used it in your life?
I like his explanation too, with the bunch of wheat thins on top of a basketball. That's how it would be like.
Yeah. That was the best. I was hungry when I thought of that. That's the best thing I could come up with. But it's true. Eventually, the only way you can cover a curved surface is with curved pieces. And he goes, none of the pieces we deal with are curved ever. So,
and they always meet each other.
Yeah, and that they always meet each other. They meet each other perfectly. And he says there's never a conflict, and that's the part that was bugging him. That's the part that got him hooked. He's going, look, he goes, just on accident, we should have some of these square pieces, and they're not even square. Squares being kind, because a lot of the pieces are all sorts of weird shaped.
Exactly.
But if they're just pure square pieces, some of these things should not match up, and somebody should make notice of it. He goes, I went 32 years and I never ever saw it. He goes, never saw it, never heard of it. Nobody ever mentioned it, over beers. And these guys drink a lot, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And imagine this real quick, Mark. The gimbal gyro thing we were talking about?
Yeah.
Imagine a fighter plane, whenever it does a high angle of attack climb, and it does a loop-de-loop, basically, inversion. Yeah. When it does that, guess what? When it maintains level flight again, that gyroscope is staying level the entire time. That's why when it levels out itself, its instruments are still working fine. The whole aircraft rotates around that thing.
Huh. Wow. That's fantastic. All right. Hey, you guys. We will be in touch. As far as anything up in the future, I'd love to have you both, around again if we run into any more people. Are you guys up for it?
Yeah,
I am.
I'd like to pitch that idea to Crow, or if you wanted to, because I think you've talked to him, right?
Yeah, I have talked to him.
If you get a hold of him and just say, hey, there's this idea we want to try. You're the telescope expert in this group.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll mention him. I'll point to the interview to him. I'll say, listen to this part, because I think you might be onto something. Because he's got all the tools, and I know he's got people all over the place that have the equipment. And if it's that simple, just a triangle.
That's what we have to point our efforts at, is solutions.
Yeah.
Yes. Experimentation.
But we got to figure out how to get the answers to questions without relying on a bunch of goofballs from MIT or NASA.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
We're going to have to bypass
and one thing, man, just to answer what you were talking about earlier, Mark, with, what's it going to take? Honestly, I think this thing is ramping up so fast. Just from the episode that me and you did a few days ago, I can't tell you how many websites I found on a Google search. I went through like 20 pages of different, like, well-known websites that were like referencing our video. It is going like wildfire, dude. Cool. And it's not just us talking about it. It's other, like Jeranism, Eric DeBay, Rob Skippa, all those guys. And it's going to come to a point, in my opinion, where it's going to be like, okay, guys, it's been a fun ride, NASA. We can't lie about this shit anymore. What do we do?
Or this could be the linchpin that breaks, that can bring about World War III.
Thank you, Jason.
He's absolutely true. I mean,
it is. I know.
We've discussed this.
Yes, we have discussed this.
Let's just say let's say that the world is flat.
Yeah.
If it is, it's been a secret for 500 years or however how long it's been.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to let it go that easy.
Okay.
And if you want to get people's attention thrown off of this, you need to put them in a rebuilding sequence for about 3 or 4 decades.
Okay, let me say this, because we're probably all on the same page about a lot of things. What is war, basically? What is war even about? Bottom line.
Profiteering. Money.
Right. What General Smedley Butler said, right? War is a racket.
Yeah.
So you're right. If we can let the cat on the bag on this, and it's basically going to fuck up their financial position of control. So why wouldn't they light the nukes and go into their deep underground military bases, wait for the rats in the cage to basically be annihilated, and then come out in 3 years and, oh, look, we got the world back.
Got our flat world.
I am hoping their plan isn't that simple.
Yeah, I think it just boils down to the battle between good and evil. So that's where
there you go.
Well, let me ask you this, for being, in as long as you have been, and you're still in, Robert, like, how many people are on the inside that would stage an insurrection or just fucking flat out say, fuck you, no? I mean, knowing that Obama or any other president is just a puppet.
I've asked that question.
I honestly think that our servicemen and women, for the majority, would follow orders up until a certain point to where it became a real gut check for everybody. Because I can tell you right now, if they ever ordered us to do some bullshit like that, they'd be counting me UA immediately. I'd be out.
Yep.
They'd have to come find my ass.
I live right near a Marine Corps base, and every once in a while, if I know somebody's a Marine or something like that, I'll just go up to them. Because I don't know any strangers. I talk to anybody.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I was talking to those 8 Italian pilots who were at the subway the other day. And it's not real Italian bread, I was telling the guy. But if I think they're Marine, I'll just go up to them and say, hey, man, let me ask you a question. You're a Marine, right? Yeah, I'm a Marine. If you were ordered to go out into this city and go door to door and confiscate weapons, would you do it? And every single time, it's either a fuck no or hell no or something like that. So...
Yeah. I'd like to think the good old boy club would do the right thing if it came down to the wire. I still believe that.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
Which is why they probably want to bring in more illegals and conscripts and everybody else who doesn't have loyalties to the American people.
That's what the FEMA camps are.
Hey,
my theory is FEMA camps are for all the immigrants are going to bring it in after the post. And release it slowly into the...
You and I could talk a lot of things, man.
Hey, I'm sorry, Robert and Jason, did you guys want to exchange info? Do you guys...
Yeah, wait, are you going to drop the charade? They're going to exchange info, and then what? That's like fucking Batman and Clark Kent. Like, what the fuck, Mark?
What? No. They were
You keep calling them by their phony names, like they're strippers in Vegas. Is that your
Well,
stage name?
Well, no.
Well, I know his real. His name's Sean.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it's on screen. I know that.
Dude, there. That's
Yeah.
not for broadcast.
Yeah. The rest of that, there was only a couple minutes left in the extended version, and we probably shouldn't have gone on with anything else after that.
All right there. But that's what it reminded me of. I was saying, like, when you go to LA, I'm a photographer and stuff, and a girl give you her name, and it's like, is that your real name? Because they usually have stage names.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to rattle off too many of them because don't want to offend too many people. I think the movie Ted covered all those.
Well, yeah, there you go.
So,
but I thought that last part was very important because they laid it on the line. They say that exactly how they feel, and they're the real deal. They're here for the country. They're not here for bullshit. They're not here for politics. They don't give a damn what other people think. They know what they know, and that's what they're reporting on.
Yeah, and the show ended. You heard us cut out, and then it's like, you know what? They just kept talking, and some of the most meaningful stuff of the whole night was right there. So it was great. So
that was fun, man. I'm really enjoying this now. Now it's like beyond the flat Earth societies and all that. Like we're really having fun with this now.
Yeah, it's good. It's only going to get better from this. I mean, it feels like it's accelerating because now that these people have come out. I mean, quick recap: Army, Navy, flight instructors, surveyors, industrial valve guy, which I'm still going to get to. Yeah, some great stuff. So can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, and I have one or two aces up my sleeve, but we'll wait before I pull those out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what you've got as well. So. Yeah, really cool. Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, no, always, man. We got a lot of fun ahead of us.
Yeah.
So, but thank you, everybody. Thank you for our caller, Randy, and for Sean for coming back on. I think he's going to be a regular because he has a lot to add. And let's see what happens next week.
Yeah. See ya.
Good night.